Hello. I wish to discuss with you something, a trinity. In this reality, to create a new life, you need two ingredients, a male principle and a female principle, a man and a woman, to create a child. This is what you could call a blueprint. We can see this same pattern with construction of something in the solid material realm, like a building. It begins as an idea, as a thought. It is given to an architect who creates a blueprint, a design, a grand design. That is then passed on to the builders, who then create it. So you have a process from nothing to something. Now let's turn that in the metaphysical, and let's look at these words. If we use I think it's the Latin, we have pater and mater, mother, father and mother. So the male principle, that is your blueprint, the design, the instructions. Now that is like a sperm, a seed. It is put into the feminine principle, which is the mater, the material. So you have a paternal, a pattern, and a maternal, a material. The consubstantiality of spirit and matter that creates a sun, an S-U-N, not an S-O-N, because it can take one of two forms in the physical. You can come into this reality into a male form or a female form, and created from one of each. So this is a key to understanding everything, to understand that Trinity, the concept of it. That's all you need at this stage, is to have a concept of the pattern and the matter. They are brought together, two into one. And it is all within inside you. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, if you take the three chambers, you have the King's Chamber. If you look at a picture of the design of the internal structures, for example, you've got something that resembles a shaft or a tower in the King's Chamber. Then you have the Queen's Chamber, which you could say is at the heart of that pyramid. So you have the King's Chamber representing the mind, or the pineal gland, which is also the grail, the throne, the seat. That is where the architect has fallen asleep in the dream, in your ark, your Sarah Abraham, your cerebrum. Now you have the Queen's Chamber, which is the heart. Now you have the joining of those two, which is your solar plexus, the gut instinct, the intuition. Now, the father principle, the paternal principle, the pattern, is asleep. And what is inherited, because you hear it within, it is in the intuition, the gut feeling. Now, just as within this reality, if you've got, say, heavy shopping and you put it into a carrier bag, we call this shopping light. The bag is the light bearer. How much light can it bear? What happens? It falls. So from the solar plexus, for this Kundalini rising inside yourself to be attained, it has to fall first. It is the fall of man, generic man. It goes past the sacral plexus, past the regenerative organs, and it goes down to the root. That is your rock bottom, your solid foundation on which to build. Now it can come back up again, and it can rise. It can go right up to here. Then it is activated, and then it is all in alignment. It becomes a unison. So the light bearer, the Lucifer principle, is a very necessary process. You need the light bearer to bring the light, to pave the way. It's the foreshadowing. It is also your shadow side. That little voice that says, go on, have another cream cake, for example, or go on, you like that flash car over there, look, the keys are in the ignition, go and steal it. Go and have fun. It's suggesting things to you. Now you have a thing called free will. And I refer you back to look at that astrological symbol for Libra, the scales. In that symbolic representation, it's the maternal aspect because it's shown as a woman. That thing about that saying about a woman's intuition. The female principle is the hearth, the earth, the homemaker. That is a part of you. It is the creative side. The male principle is the pattern. It is the one that goes looking to add and put more seeds, implant more seeds. And from that, then you have this foreshadowing, which is your shadow side. It's not something to hide away from, it is something to face. It requires going within oneself and facing it, and then forgiving it. Now, those that have got a religious persuasion will say, what's he saying? He's saying, embrace the darkness. I'm saying embrace your darkness within inside you. You cannot help anyone or do anything until you have helped yourself. You have to fix inside yourself first, bring it back into balance, get things working in harmony rather than harming many in the external. It requires a process of going through, dredging through a rather unpleasant swamp within inside yourself. But it is a necessary process. Think of it in terms of the world is a stage, and it works very well with live theatre, where you have this interaction between audience, the observers, and the players on the world stage, or in this case, the theatre stage. You have one that will opt to play the character that represents the bad guy. You'll have another character which represents the hero, the good side. But of course, at the end of that drama, the curtain comes down and then lifts up with the curtain call. The veil is removed. Now you have all the characters all come out, whether they be good or bad, and they all take a bow to the observers. It is a necessary role. If we to put this in the context of the Garden of Eden, the serpent says to Eve, look, there's a tree of knowledge over there. There's a fruit, the knowledge of good and evil. You would not have free will without that. That is a necessary process. In the same way, that you learn in this reality. You start by taking one footstep forward. You may well fall. You haven't mastered walking at this stage. But you pick yourself up. You keep going. You impress it until it becomes second nature. It is a necessary process, so you master the ability to walk. So all you do is transpose that blueprint pattern in the material, in your material form, and you adopt that same principle. Likewise, when you look up at the night sky, are you telling me that you see a man with a jug under his arm pouring out water called Aquarius? Do you see a lion called Leo? Do you see a great bear and so on? Or do you just see a series of lights, and with them you can project those imaginary lines and get this sort of outlines of these things that we're told are constellations? But do you actually see these things that they're described as? So that again, there is a blueprint pattern that can be taken from that and applied not just to astrology, because it's readily accepted that you're not looking at a bear or a man or a scorpion or whatever. But it's accepted that it's just a representation, a symbolic representation of what you're looking at. So take that same pattern and apply it to everything else. So take, for example, a religious teaching. The same pattern applies. It is an archetype. Let's specifically take the Bible. Now, yes, it doesn't make sense if you read it literally. It needs to be understood and understood what it is really about. It is a guidebook. If you don't understand it, I would suggest that you listen to one of the Neville Goddard lectures and understand that it is one character playing all the parts, all the characters in that story. It doesn't matter whether it's historically accurate. It is a story. It is about archetypes. It is all the parts that you will play in your life. It is just written in a language to suit a particular time and a particular period. But you can get exactly the same story with Wagner's Ring Cycle. That, incidentally, was the very first time that the Kabbalah had been sort of revealed to the public. I put a playlist it's the Gnostic Student channel, and there's lectures on the Ring Cycle. It's very well worth listening to. It will give you another perspective. There is a trinity. It's always in threes. Creation is always in threes. It takes two principles to create a third. In the same way, as Ken Wheeler explains, electricity is the hybrid of the dielectric and the magnetism. The father principle, the mother principle creates the hybrid, the combination of the two. So the Ring Cycle will give you the same esoteric message, the same internal dialogue that is going on, the same story that is going on within inside you. But it requires 3 steps. The first step is to be open-minded to all possibilities, all potentials around you. Just going to stop for a sip of coffee. The world is ruled by signs and symbols, and let us not forget that these characters called letters are just that. They are signs and symbols. So if we take the word open from open-minded, the O represents the organic, the whole. The pen, well, it's not going to be a physical pen where you write on paper. The pen that is O, pen, is the ability to write your own story, your own living Akashic record of your experience. There's no physicality involved in any of that. It's all done internally. See, this is the other thing with this. Another pattern. Everything comes from nothing. It starts in the unseen and it manifests into the material in many, many forms. Some are actions, some are words, some are physical objects. But they all manifest. But can it be turned round? For example, you could be frightened by a ghost or an apparition in a haunted house. But can you frighten that apparition? It seems to be very much one-way traffic. Whatever comes into this physical, solid realm stays in this realm. And if you think about it, the organic body, the avatar in which you find yourself residing in this current moment, will eventually expire, and it becomes remains, because it remains here. There is nothing added and nothing taken away. You are an eternal spirit. You are an eternal being having an experience. How could I pick up this coffee cup and experience coffee if I didn't have a physical form? I'm not going to be able to grab the cup. A very good illustration of this is the film Ghost with Patrick Swayze. And in that film, he's still in this reality as a ghost, and the wrongdoers that took his life, that instigated his murder, he swings punches at them, but he's a ghost. He does not have a physical form. He has to go back and see the guy on the train and say to him, "How did you do that?" But look how he also communicates with, I think is it Demi Moore that plays his, I think, fiance. He goes to this medium played by Whoopi Goldberg. So look at what is being shown there. You've got a white man that is now spiritually talking through a black female. The contrast between male and female, black and white, how clear do you need it to be spelt out as what is being shown there? I would not discount anything in this reality. They're all signs for you to see. They're all variations on frequency. But as you go down this spiritual path, it is no different from the radio. If you are tuned into a station called materialism, as you adjust and you reattune yourself, you tune that dial to a different frequency, there is a point where things are distorted. It's not on one station or the other. You've not fully moved and tuned into this new broadcast. There is a process. It takes time. Just like in this reality, it takes time to learn to walk. It takes time to learn the times tables. Even in the biblical story, the archetype man called Jesus, G is us, he is us. It's not until the age of 30, when he has that first Saturn return, and then becomes the Christ. They're just archetypes. It doesn't matter whether it's real or not. You need to move beyond that and have an open mind, not fall for a corrupted fish story, which is actually putting middlemen between you and your higher self. But it is all within you. It is just unlocking it within yourself. Many of you, from what I can see, are wondering what your role is, what your purpose is. Well, ask yourself, What do you feel most drawn to? What skills have you picked up along the way? What have you tried? What have you not tried? What experiences have you had? Ask yourself these questions. Be open to the universe presenting things to you. It's not about reacting to anything. This is mind food. Just like the physical food, it takes time to digest. Notice that goes down to the stomach area, the solar plexus, where the sun sits. And then it is processed. If you see the patterns and the blueprints to these things in this material world and what it's based upon, you start to see the bigger picture, the architecture of it all. Think also how the serpent in the garden is a necessary aspect, because without that ability to have the realization of the individualization that distinguishes ourselves from each other, when we're all really just reflections of each other. We are one after all, but this is the beauty of this game. It is so cleverly and beautifully constructed. It is such a fantastic game that it is there, but it takes quite a while to find, because we are bombarded with so many ways to get us looking externally, looking outside of ourselves. But of course we are walking in two worlds, so you have to experience the outside world and interact with it as well. There's a few things there I feel are worth pondering. So you have your blueprint, you have your pattern, and you have your material, your pater, your mater, and the design, the grand design. And ponder is a very interesting word. You don't want to be a vessel being tossed and thrown about with the energy motions, the emotions of a stormy sea. Far better to be like that boat on a perfectly still lake, like a mill pond. In fact, I would say use your imagination and picture that lake. Picture yourself as that boat. Now start painting a picture of the background. What are you going to put into it? Are you going to put lots of greenery? Are you going to put mountains in the background? You have the ability within you to create anything you wish. Now they can come into a material form as a painting, or it can come as something, as a solid object. For example, the architect's plan to the finished structure as a physical building. Same pattern with everything. But you're a co-creator and you have free will. What you do with it is entirely up to you, but if you want to know the answers, it is a case of go within, address your shadow side. Face it, embrace it, kiss it, forgive it. Say to that shadow side, that Lucifer principle, that thank you very much, you have actually been my best teacher, because you have shown me, because we learn best through mistakes. But when you recognize that within yourself and you can get it working in unison, so it's working with you rather than against you, when you lose all the external temptations to hoard and collect and want more and more and more, and even if you're fairly wealthy like Tutankhamun, do you really think you can take any of it with you? Nothing is added and nothing is taken away. It all remains here. Once it is solid, it remains in a solid realm. That is a fact. Unless you know different, please let me know. But that's, I think, something really worth exploring It's an internal exploration, but it's up to you whether you want to take that journey. It's not all going to be pleasant, but it is all a process and it is worth doing. And I'm not talking from a concept point of view, I'm talking from an experience point of view, because I feel totally calm within oneself. And I certainly feel better for it. And it's not like I can unplug a cassette with feeling onto it and plug it into you and say, now you know what it feels like. There is only one way you're going to know. It is a secret known only to one. It is all in feeling. It's how you feel about things, how you internalize things. But consider also, where is your perspective? From what angle, what angel are you looking? You need to have all four compass points. You need to encompass yourself and sit in the middle. The center point. You are the point of it all. That is the point of your experience and your existence from birth until death in this realm. So you have something you can take away. Now, you're not taking away something physical. You're taking away an experience which will go somewhere and will yield something very beautiful, something outside of this material realm of finite, this realm that is subject to time and space. But it is very easy to prove there is no such thing as time or space. The perfect analogy to this is if you are asleep and some external noise like a doorbell or a telephone, you wake enough to hear it, but not wake enough to come out the dream. In that split second, that will be incorporated into the dream like it has a backstory to it. But what if we externalize that and ask ourselves what really is history? Something else to ponder. So I shall leave it there. We're up to 27 minutes. So quite a bit to go through there. Like everything, I would suggest, if this feels right to you, listen to it not once, not twice, listen to it 3 times. Things come in threes. Take from this video whatever serves you. I don't mean serving in the sense of where you're looking down on anybody. It serves you in, is anything said here something you can take for yourself that will benefit you? That is the intention of these videos, that you find it within yourself. You could say, in a way, that I am a gatekeeper, but we are all gatekeepers. If you hold that door open, if you are the gatekeeper that is holding the door open to doubt and fear, what do you think you're going to let in? If you close those doors, when one door closes, another one opens. There is a magical beauty in this world, in this reality, in this experience to be found. But you have free will, and you have numerous perspectives you can look at things from. You can see everything in a very negative way. You can see everything in a very positive way. You can be content. Think of a tent, how from the end, generally they look triangular. A content, so that's bringing two things together. That's your pater and mater again. Your pattern and your material. The conjoining, the conjunction of the two to create a third, and that is all going on within you. Ta-ta for now, and love to you all.